Okay, on this episode we're going to do the pilot house. Now, the pilot house on these 600 footers was kind of small, and we're just going to do this portion of it. If you look here, we get the measurement from the plans. And now, I'm going to take a look at exactly what that shape is. First thing we do is we cut a sheet from our cardstock that's the same height that we want for our pilot house. Now keep in mind that we got to have the right shape. Also, if you look here, start by doing the cross section first and then curving around to get the shape of the round pilot house. Once you determine where the end is, we just cut it and throw it away. Now, it's something peculiar about this size of model. You'll notice that there are a whole lot of windows in the pilot house drawing. In fact, there are as many as 9. If I tried to put those 9 front windows in, plus the additional 2 on each side, then what happens is the uprights between each window pane are so thin that it makes it almost impossible, even with a number 11 X-Acto blade, to cut them out. Not in this scale anyway. So we're going to find out right now why these models are semi-scale, because we're going to cheat and not put all the windows in. I figure the best way to do this is just do the front 9 windows, and then we'll do the 4 in the rear. Now we got our sheet of paper cut out, and what I did is I drew a line that was the height that I wanted for the windows. Plus you notice my line for my cutaway section. Don't need that, it's gone. Now in here we have to find where the center of that is. You could measure and calculate it, but we're going to do my ADHD method, and we're going to take a piece of paper that's the exact same length as where our window section is, fold it exactly in half, then set it back on there, and mark the halfway point with a pencil. And abracadabra, we have the center of the 5th window. Next, we kind of have to figure out just how wide we want each window to be. Remember, when you're doing this, you have to leave room for the window panes. Now, I really don't measure, I just kind of eyeball it. And if you see it, you got it. If not, make a new one. I recommend that you harden this paper. I know usually we harden before we round anyway, so go ahead and harden it. Now, there's going to be one issue you're going to find. Once you get all your windows drawn onto that hardened paper, you're going to have to cut each one of those out. I cut them vertically first, and then do the bottom part of the pane second. What that takes is a lot of patience, a very sharp X-Acto blade, and be willing to have to do it all over again. Because the problem is, if you cut through too far and you cut out one of the panes, you got to start all over again. Here we have the end product, and I actually did cut one of these panes out by accident, but what I did is I used a little glue and replaced it. You can't tell which one. Notice all the blades. That's how many I broke doing this. Here's the end product. Looks pretty good. Now we have to turn it into an actual pilot house. We start with making that black paint illusion that I taught you earlier. You paint the inside flat black. Gives an impression of depth. Also, you cut out the top roof portion. Mine has got the later version of the 600 footer because I wanted to have the overhang on there. On the very early versions of these pilot houses, they didn't have an overhang. Next, paint it white on the outside. Or if you're going for like a Cliff's boat, paint it olive green. Now here's a handy trick just to add a little style and depth. You get a piece of that really thin wire that we talked about in the hacks portion and in the early portion of these videos, and simply hold it up against the pilot house itself and wrap it around. You have to be a little nimble in fingers to get this done properly. It takes some practice, but you got a lot of this wire. Once you get that shape, it will retain the basic curve that you really want. Make sure it's nice and snug. And then get yourself some nail clippers and clip away the excess. On occasion, I've done 2 of these and put one right below the windows so it looks like a little handle there. That's kind of cool. Now we have to just pinch it a little bit and form it exactly right. This takes a while, and it takes some practice. You might have to do several of these before you get it right or get it where you want it. Once you've got it there, glue it to the roof. And you'll see in the end product, it gives this a dimension that's pretty cool. I like it. Next, we'll be putting the glass in the windows. You don't have to do this, but I like doing it. You can find any discarded piece of this sort of a more than cellophane thick glass from anything, a used box for tools or parts or anything like that. Just cut it out, wrap it around, and in order to measure it, take your X-Acto, just get up there and put a scratch in it. You're not going to cut at the scratch. You can see it here. What you're going to do is you're going to cut maybe an 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch farther in from the scratch. Otherwise, it's not going to fit right in there. When you get that right size, you can slide it right in. And voila, you have windows. Now, I apply a little glue on the inside just to keep it in place. Otherwise, over the years, it'll tend to slide out. You can use some cyanoacrylate, some super glue, but that stuff tends to have a vapor that comes up that can actually cause the windows to fog. So I'm using a toothpick here. Get a little dab, just a little bit. And all it takes is just a little bit right up there on the edges to hold it in place. There's not going to be any stress on this, so you don't have to worry about it really coming out of place with that little bit of glue on it. If it's unglued, it's been my experience that it will find a way to work itself down. Once you get that out of the way, let her dry. You see here I've got 3 windows in the back. I'm going to change that on mine. I'm going to make it 4. Now, here's the wire at the top that's glued on. Take a good look at it. It really adds some depth to that crown. It really does. I like that. Now let's take our Texas deck house and our new pilot house and just kind of stack them one atop the other to see how they look. before we go gluing anything. And here we go. They look proportional. And once we glue them in place, they'll be terrific. The only thing missing right now is that front rail. And I've put that on in this one. Here's the end product. And there we go. She's starting to look like a 600-footer in my opinion. Next, before we do the decks, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how the radio control system that I use functions.